It's probably on recording right now, but it's not on the cloud recording. I did it to the cloud.
Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 So we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 7, which is entitled Scheduled Incarnations. And we're reading text 51. Idam Bhagavatam Nama.
Idam Bhagavatam Nama.
Yanme Bhagavato Ditam.
Yanme Bhagavato Ditam.
Sangraho Yam Vibhutinam.
Sangraho Yam Vibhutinam.
Tvam Etad Vipuli Kuru.
Tvam Etad Vipuli Kuru.
Idam Bhagavatam Nama.
Idam Bhagavatam Nama.
Yanme Bhagavato Ditam.
Yanme Bhagavato Ditam.
Sangraho Yam Vibhutinam.
Sangraho Yam Vibhutinam.
Tvam Etad Vipuli Kuru.
Tvam Etad Vipuli Kuru.
Idam Bhagavatam Nama.
Idam Bhagavatam Nama.
Yanme Bhagavato Ditam.
Yanme Bhagavato Ditam.
Sangraho Yam Vibhutinam.
Sangraho Yam Vibhutinam.
Tvam Etad Vipuli Kuru.
Tvam Etad Vipuli Kuru.
Idam Bhagavatam Nama.
Idam Bhagavatam Nama.
Yanme Bhagavato Ditam.
Yanme Bhagavato Ditam.
Sangraho Yam Vibhutinam.
Sangraho Yam Vibhutinam.
Tvam Etad Vipuli Kuru.
Tvam Etad Vipuli Kuru. Idam Bhagavatam Nama.
Idam Bhagavatam Nama.
Yanme Bhagavato Ditam.
Yanme Bhagavato Ditam.
Sangraho Yam Vibhutinam.
Sangraho Yam Vibhutinam.
Tvam Etad Vipuli Kuru.
Tvam Etad Vipuli Kuru.
Anyone else?
Idam Bhagavatam Nama.
Idam Bhagavatam Nama.
Yanme Bhagavato Ditam.
Yanme Bhagavato Ditam.
Sangraho Yam Vibhutinam.
Sangraho Yam Vibhutinam.
Tvam Etad Vipuli Kuru.
Tvam Etad Vipuli Kuru.
Idam Bhagavatam Nama.
Idam Bhagavatam Nama.
Yanme Bhagavato Ditam.
Yanme Bhagavato Ditam.
Sangraho Yam Vibhutinam.
Sangraho Yam Vibhutinam.
Tvam Etad Vipuli Kuru.
Tvam Etad Vipuli Kuru.
Idam Bhagavatam Nama.
Idam Bhagavatam Nama.
Yanme Bhagavato Ditam.
Yanme Bhagavato Ditam.
Sangraho Yam Vibhutinam.
Sangraho Yam Vibhutinam.
Tvam Etad Vipuli Kuru.
Tvam Etad Vipuli Kuru.
Anyone else?
Idam Bhagavatam Nama.
Idam Bhagavatam Nama.
Yanme Bhagavato Ditam.
Yanme Bhagavato Ditam.
Sangraho Yam Vibhutinam.
Sangraho Yam Vibhutinam.
Tvam Etad Vipuli Kuru.
Tvam Etad Vipuli Kuru.
Idam Bhagavatam Nama.
Idam Bhagavatam Nama.
Vatoditam.
Yanme Bhagavato Ditam.
Sangraho Yam Vibhutinam. vibhutinam.
Sangrahoyam vibhutinam.
Mametad vipuli kuru.
Mametad vipuli kuru.
Idam,
Idam.
this,
This.
Bhagavatam,
Bhagavatam.
the science of Godhead.
The science of Godhead.
Nama,
Nama.
of the name.
Of the name.
Yat,
Yat.
that which.
That which.
Me, unto me.
Unto me.
Bhagavata,
Bhagavata.
by the personality of Godhead.
By the personality of Godhead.
Uditam,
Uditam.
enlightened.
Enlightened.
Sangrahaha,
Sangraha.
is the accumulation of.
Is the accumulation of.
Ayam,
Ayam.
is.
Is.
Vibhutinam,
Vibhutinam.
of the diverse potencies.
Of the diverse potencies.
Tvam,
Tvam.
your good self.
Your good self.
Etat,
Etat.
this science of Godhead.
The science of Godhead.
Vipuli,
Vipuli.
expand.
Expand.
Kuru,
Guru.
do it.
Do it.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. O Narada, this science of God, Srimad Bhagavatam, was spoken to me in summary by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and it was spoken as the accumulation of His diverse potencies. Please expand this science yourself. Purport. The Bhagavatam in a nutshell, spoken by the Personality of Godhead in about half a dozen verses, which will appear ahead, is the science of God, and it is the potent representation of the Personality of Godhead. He, being absolute, is non-different from the science of God, Srimad Bhagavatam. Brahmaji received this science of Godhead from the Lord directly, and he handed over the same to Narada, who in his turn ordered Srila Vyasa to expand it. So the transcendental knowledge of the Supreme Lord is not mental speculation by the mundane wranglers, but is uncontaminated, eternal, perfect knowledge beyond the jurisdiction of material modes. The Bhagavad Purana is therefore the direct incarnation of the Lord in the form of transcendental sound, and one should receive this transcendental knowledge from the bona fide representative of the Lord in the chain of disciplic succession from the Lord to Brahmaji, from Brahmaji to Narada, from Narada to Vyasa, from Vyasadev to Shukadev Goswami, from Shukadev Goswami to Sutta Goswami. The ripened fruit of the Vedic tree drops from one hand to another without being broken, by falling suddenly from a high branch down to the earth. Therefore, unless one hears the science of Godhead from the bona fide representative of the disciplic succession, as above mentioned, for one to understand the theme of the science of Godhead will be a difficult job. It should never be heard from the professional Bhagavatam reciters who earn their livelihood by gratifying the senses of the audience. Umakyantimarandasya gyananjana shalakaya chakshurunmilitam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitam Scha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinobandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanjana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Turubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So beg for the blessings of the assembled devotees. Dear Govinda Prabhu, Malini Devi, ask for your blessings. They can say something for the benefit of the devotees here, for the pleasure of Gaurnitai, and in line with Guru Parampara. Hare Krishna. Nice to be with all of you. Nice to see you. It's been a long time. So grateful for the opportunity to serve. And we'll read this verse again. This is Canto 2, Chapter 7, entitled Scheduled Incarnations, Text 51. O Narada, this science of God, Srimad Bhagavatam, was spoken to me in summary by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and it was spoken as the accumulation of his diverse potencies. Please expand this science yourself. So this is Lord Brahma, and he's speaking about the science of God. Srimad Bhagavatam is the science of God. And really, this is kind of what's missing in many religions and spiritual traditions in the world today is the science of the spiritual path. I think originally, every tradition had a kind of science and a kind of program and a process, because the world, the material world and its influence is so strong. So you have to create a sadhana, a practice, a process, a program to actually rise above material consciousness. But what's happened today is that the material consciousness has kind of swallowed all the spiritual paths as well that are there in the world, and they kind of take on a material form, and religion just becomes about, being a good person, being a little better, which of course is important as part of it. But for most people, the idea of religion, you're going to a church or a mosque or a temple maybe once a week. It's kind of like a social activity for most people. It's a moral activity. It seems just right. We should acknowledge God. And of course, there's some power entering those places and hearing and so forth. But the material energy is so powerful. It has such a strong grip on all of us that it takes much more. That it takes much more sincerity and seriousness to overcome. And there has to be a science that's also given. Otherwise, it just becomes sentimental. We go every so often, but what is the process that's going to help me actually transform? Transformation. It's meant to be a process of transformation. When we see somebody like Srila Prabhupada, it's like he's such a different person from everybody else that I've ever known or met or came across. And I always had this feeling that looking into his eyes and hearing him, there's an ocean in there of knowledge. There's an ocean of devotion. There's an ocean of compassion. It's like the soul being part of Krishna is also infinite in a certain way. It's the infinitesimal, we say. It's very, very tiny, but it's a particle of God. So it also has a certain infinity to it. Unlimited knowledge, unlimited compassion, unlimited love is possible for every living being. So religion is meant to really reconnect us to that. There should be a real transformation where the person actually goes from being just, I'm from this town, I have an Italian family from this little town, New Jersey, that little small identification. That person's meant to become like an ocean of compassion, an ocean of knowledge. And we have examples of that when we hear from someone like Srila Prabhupada, and this is the kind of transformation that's meant to take place. So for that transformation, it can't just be occasionally I go somewhere and have a nice experience and then I go home and live as I always lived. We should see something a little different about ourselves because of Krishna consciousness. And we should feel that's a reality, and I want that. I want more of that. This change of consciousness, change of heart. So there's being religious, but there's also what Krishna promotes in the Bhagavad Gita is becoming a yogi. That's very different than just being a religious person. A yogi is something like an athlete, like a spiritual athlete. Okay, now what should I eat? What should I do every day? Who's my trainer? Who's my teacher? What, do I have an association of a team to get better? You know, all of these factors come in. If you get serious about spiritual life, all these things become important. What's the culture I'm living by? You see, to be a great athlete, right? You require that. You require teammates. You require a coach. You require a certain schedule that you're following. You're working out. You're eating a certain way. And what to speak of spiritual life when we're trying to really reawaken the soul, transform our hearts, then all of that is required so much more even. So this verse is nice because it's saying that this is what the Bhagavatam is. It's the science. It's the science of God. And all the different traditions had that science at one point. And again, like I said, it kind of fell away. It became a little more sentimental, mostly. But the science is there also in the books. But that's also not enough in a certain sense, because just like if you look through the Bible, say, or the Bhagavatam, there are so many powerful points here and there. But in one way, in some sense, it's not organized. And if it's just us looking at the book and trying to get up all these spiritual ideas, wow, this is powerful, this is great, this is important, but still, it has to be organized in such a way that we actually know what the path is, what the process is, what the practice is. And that's why the acharyas are so important. Because they go into the scriptures and they organize a kind of process that they take the essence out of it. Just like Prabhupada gave this morning program that we're doing here, this was very thoughtful. These are like from the Shastras of like Rupa Goswami, from the teachings of Rupa Goswami, what we're doing, the Tulsi Puja, the Guru Puja, you know, Guru Vastakam, we start with honoring Srila Prabhupada, the Guru. And then there's a Bhagavatam class, and everything was very thoughtful the way he laid it out, Srila Prabhupada. So it's almost like now we have this process, we have this program. And that's kind of what it's really about. It's taking the essence of what's there and then creating a process, a system where we can do this every day, and we have to do it with our consciousness. We have to do it bringing our minds into it. I heard a class by Prabhupada, and I always remembered it because it was an interesting statement, but it becomes more and more clear to me how important it was. But he says, devotee means the mind. Because our bodies can get busy in certain actions and even devotional actions. But he was saying, but a devotee means to put your mind into it, into everything you're doing. Put your consciousness. We call it Krishna consciousness. So it's difficult sometimes because, like I was saying, this program, thank you, it becomes repetitive. And then the mind starts to withdraw. The body is just going through the motions, like we say, right? But devotee means the mind, that the mind is conscious of what I'm doing and why. You know, we all are here for a reason. We have this desire in the heart that's very deep. That's what we all have in common. And but sometimes we just keep continuing on with the program, and we forget that, and we lose sight of our aim. But if you always keep the aim there, that what am I aiming towards? I'm aiming towards reconnecting with the supreme personality of God, reconnecting with my own soul. And so, okay, let me chant remembering that. So what that does, it starts to produce a longing in the heart. And we should bring that longing into all of the items of devotional service. We should hear with longing. we should chant with longing. We should pray with longing. That longing. Why is there a longing in the heart? It's so perfect with Krishna's name, the name Krishna. It means his very nature draws us in. And that's why we feel a longing, because he's drawing us in. We misinterpret that longing. And we think, I need this, I need that, this will do it, this relationship, this person, this situation in material life. So everyone feels that longing. It's the desire for pleasure, desire to reconnect. It's existential. But we misinterpret it, thinking that it's something mundane, something right in front of my eyes right now, that will give it to me. And then we become addicted to those things by trying to get them, trying to squeeze a little pleasure out of it. But that longing is actually there because Krishna is all attractive. And we have in a relationship, and it's a little covered right now, but still the heart is reaching out for it. And the more we perform devotional service, Krishna consciousness, the more some of that covering is removed, and we should be feeling it more and more. We should be feeling that longing more and more. And then one day it's finally going to dawn on us that longing is for Krishna. It is for Krishna. And then we become more one-pointed in our chanting, in our hearing, in our association, everything that we do. Because we're starting to have the realization that this is actually where this reaching that I have in my heart that's reaching out is directed towards the Supreme Person. And when we hear about Krishna, and more we'll become attracted, because that's his very nature. So, but it requires, like Prabhupada says, there's yes, Krishna's all attractive. If you have a magnet and a piece of metal, it's naturally attracted. But if the metal is very rusty, then that attraction will not act, it won't act. Nothing will happen. So we think, well, if I'm longing for Krishna, I don't really feel that, or I don't know that. But the more we stay, the more purification takes place, then the rust is being removed, and then we'll find ourselves being very attracted to Krishna. And then we want more of this. We want to hear more. We want to associate with devotees more. So this is the part of the science of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And it's very interesting here. It says, well, maybe I'll just pause for a moment and see if anybody has any thoughts or realizations or insights about maybe this longing that I was talking about, or your experience with it, or anything you'd like to add or share. I think it's such an important topic. What's that?
We want to hear more from you.
Okay. Well, I'll just stop in the check to see if I'd like to add anything. I like this topic of longing a lot because it's what brought me to Krishna consciousness, and I understand it just has to deepen more and more and more. And like the only qualification, it's said, to experience Krishna, Vrindavan Krishna, Loliam, is like this greed, where the longing, right now it's maybe a little vague, I want love, I want freedom. This is the desire for God, actually. But it's a little vague in the beginning, and we just we give different words to it. I want happiness. Eventually, it starts to get more and more specific, and it starts to form. And actually, it's the personality of Godhead who embodies all of these things. He's the personification of absolute goodness, of absolute love, of freedom. All of that is there within the Supreme Person. And so it starts off as a kind of vague desire, and then gradually it becomes more clear. It's a desire for God. And then what a revelation that we have, that more than just God, that's also can be vague. God, but then this form of God, of Krishna, which is like the most intimate, sweetest, manifestation of God, which means it's the ultimate manifestation of God. Because just like we have different relationships in our life, some of us, we go to work, so work, you have a certain, manifestation of yourself. I guess it depends what your work is, but you have relationships and you're a certain way, or you meet just some strangers and you're a certain way, you have a manifestation of yourself. But who's the real you? When does the real you fully come out and manifest? Is when you're with the intimate, like family, right? Like family knows like the real you. Right? And the sweet you, hopefully sweet. I guess we're all a mix of everything, right? But your more intimate self comes out because there's loving relationship, there's trust. So this is what we mean when we say Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, because in one sense, all the other personalities of Godhead are also eternal. So it doesn't really mean Krishna comes first, and then he created this avatar and this avatar. All the avatars are eternal. So they're all existing simultaneously. So it's not that Krishna is the origin or the source in the sense that he decided to start like sending these other ones out. They're always there. But so in what sense is Krishna the supreme personality of God? Because it's the most intimate, which is the most real of who we are, is the most intimate self, the most complete manifestation of our sweetness, our personhood. And so it's such a revelation that we've been given by Prabhupada. And Bhagavatam is giving just that. That's why it is such a powerful book. It's said that even when we talk about Krishna, you can just talk about God in general. He's the controller, he's the supreme, Vishnu. But even when we get to just Krishna, even there, depending on where he is and who he's associating with, the relationship also can vary. So it's said that when Krishna is in Dwarka, he is, I think the term that's given by Rupa Goswami is that his name in Dwarka is Purna, which means he is perfect. His name in Mathura is Purna Tara, which means more perfect. And then in Vrindavan, his name is Purnatama, which means the most perfect. So you didn't know, right? Perfect can be more perfect, most perfect, all that's possible, because we're talking about God. So there's a variety there, specifically the Bhagavatam. Why it's so unique and so special is because what it's actually giving ultimately, it's giving lots of things for lots of people because it's raising people up kind of gradually. It's offering different things to kind of bring us in. But ultimately the fruit that's mentioned here, the fruit of the Bhagavatam, is giving Vrindavan Krishna. Specifically Krishna in Vrindavan. And that is so beautiful and so high. Just like when Krishna went to Kurukshetra and there was devotees of Dwarka who were there. And there were also devotees of Vrindavan who were there. So Krishna's real, we can say his real mother and father is who? It's Vasudeva and Devaki. But in Kurukshetra, when Devaki saw Mother Yashoda embraced Krishna and she went into total ecstasy and trance, and Devaki was wondering, how can Yashoda have more affection for Krishna than me? I'm the real mother. Mm-hmm. But she was seeing Yashoda was just totally lost and embracing Krishna, and she just practically lost consciousness. And that mystified Devaki, because she said, but I'm the real mother. So the reason why Vrindavan, what's Vrindavan Krishna? In Dwarka, they love Krishna. It's pure love for Krishna, but it's mixed by the knowledge that this is God. The fact that they know that Krishna is God, it interferes with that very sweet, intimate love. And, between Dwarka and Vrindavan is Mathura, where they also know Krishna is God, but he's not like the leader like he is in Dvarka. He's not the king. He's kind of like a little boy. And so they know, okay, this little boy is God. And so there's a closeness, but there's also the knowledge of God. And therefore, it's also an obstacle to that total, pure, intimate love. And then finally, when you come to Vrindavan, nobody knows or believes that Krishna is God. This is such a fascinating subject matter, isn't it? Because why is it like that? Because the intimacy of the love is so great that if they know that Krishna is God, it actually interferes with the intimacy and the sweetness of the love. So therefore, when Krishna kills demons and things like that in Vrindavan, and then the cowherd boys, they come back and tell their parents that Krishna killed the demons. And they think the parents are just like, you're probably, these little boys are just exaggerating. Little kids exaggerated. I doubt it happened. They can't believe it. And even when they see it themselves, they think, when they see it themselves, Krishna does something miraculous. They just think, wow, Vishnu has somehow done this. Like the God has somehow protected Krishna.
Maybe he's a demigod, but
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, there are also maybe he's some great being, some demigod. So they'll never believe it. Even if some evidence is there, they'll never actually believe. There's always some excuse. There's always some reason. When Krishna was lifting Govardhan Hill, the cowherd men and others, they had their sticks and they were also helping him. And later, Mother Yashoda, she concluded that the reason why, Krishna was actually getting tired, but the reason, because Krishna had so much help, he was able to lift it. So this is such a, if any part of us like feels the beauty in this, that God starts to actually, his power and greatness diminishes so that it allows for intimate love. He likes to do that, and then he exchanges. If we can sense the beauty and feel the beauty of it, then we're true devotees of Krishna, and we're on our way to attaining the lotus feet of Krishna. Because there's one purport where Prabhupada says, if you can just appreciate this sweetness of Krishna, if you can just appreciate that he's playing with his friends, who are these cowherd boys who are actually playing with God, right? God is such reverence, it's such power, it's such, just mind-blowing, right? But they've gotten so closer, where they're just fooling around with God and playing and joking with God. So who are those personalities? How exalted, how pure is their love? So Prabhupada says, if you can just appreciate that the cowherd boys are playing with Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then you also become eligible to play with Krishna. And it's just appreciating it. If it does anything to us. Yeah, what does that do to you when you hear this? When you hear this Krishna, suddenly his majesty and everything diminishes, and then he's just joking, playing, loving, games. He's dancing in Vrindavan. What does that do to you when you hear that? Anyone want to share? Does it put you in wonder? Does it just seem attractive? What does it do for you? Anyone?
It proves like the supremacy of God for me. He's not attached to me being supreme.
Yeah.
You can let go of that.
It's like the humility of God, right? Like his supremacy. He's not attached to his supreme position.
Yeah, it's like the ultimate renunciant.
Yeah.
Renouncing power.
The six opulences of Krishna, one of them is renunciation. And renouncing the power, the position, and wanting to renounce it, because then he also enjoys that sweet. Prabhupada says in one place, he also forgets that he's God. It's very mysterious. It's very mysterious, but love can do that. When he's not also like acting and pretending that he's like not God, he has one energy. He has many energies, but he has one energy that also bewilders him. And that is that Haladini Shakti. He also gets confused because it's such a pure love that he also kind of loses control of it and also is controlled by it. He has one
Wisconsin.
energy. Huh?
So Wisconsin. Come on.
It's Krishna, but this is why he's God.
Then you have one energy who can cover him completely that you forget that he's God.
Yeah,
So who is God?
yeah. What is that energy? It's the energy of love. He has many energies that do many things, but there's one energy, which is the energy of love, where he comes under the control of it. That's why in Nectar of Devotion, Prabhupada says that bhakti is more powerful than Krishna, because he comes under the control of bhakti. He also submits willingly and lovingly, but still that statement is there. Bhakti is more powerful than Krishna. Yeah.
I really like, I think it was Baraharaj was saying the other night about Damodar, and yes, it means, Buddha means belly, and Damodar, I think it means bound, but you think, oh, okay, he was bound by a rope, but really it means he's bound, God can't be bound, but he's bound by his devotees' love. And I think the way he phrased it, just, I felt like, that is such a beautiful definition of God, and it really relates to what you're saying, which is that, like, he's controlled by love, like, by Mother Yashoda's love, that he's bound by that love, that it's more powerful than him.
Yeah.
The rope is more powerful. He's like, oh, you tied me up, I can't get away, oh no.
Yeah.
So it's like, it is very wondrous.
Yeah, it's so wonderful. And like Prabhupada gives the
Sure.
please.
Are they hearing online
Everyone?
comments from here?
Is everyone online hearing the comments that are being said by those here?
I am.
Yes, we are.
Great.
Just wanted to do a check there.
Thank you for reminding us. Didn't want to forget all of you there. Prabhupada says, and just like you were saying, like Krishna says, oh, I'm being tied up and I'm being caught by Mother Yashoda, and he kind of enjoys that and just like lets it happen. He gives the example of like a father playing with the son. And now the son's not gonna, little boy's not gonna beat the father in some game, right? They're playing some game, and the father, just the intelligence is more advanced, he's bigger, whatever the game is, I don't know. But the father would win if he's really being competitive. But he likes to lose to make the son happy. And so he willingly is defeated out of love. Why does he do it? Out of love. And it's so sweet when you see something like that, right? Oh, you knocked me over. And like little boy just starts beating up, the father or something. It's very sweet to see that. So that's there in the material world. Everything in the material world is a symbol of what really happens in the spiritual world. So all these examples we come up with, all these symbols, and everything is a symbol here. It's a symbol. It's just like a reflection of the truth, and the truth is there in the Supreme. So the fact that people just do that, a father will just gratefully, happily be defeated, and this is actually an aspect of God. This is what he does, and therefore we do it. We're only imitating things that already exist on a higher level. That's even like we create a government, we have a government and we put up we have this whole, the demigods, they're like, this is like the cosmic government. We don't see them anymore. We don't believe it. But the only reason why we have this idea in the spiritual world, also there's a system, the way things work, and depending on where in the spiritual world, and then we have these ideas and we think, wow, look what human beings have done. We've created this, we've created that. It's kind of in us to create it because it's actually in the absolute truth. And so everything is kind of symbolic here. And it gives us which is a powerful thing to think about, because that means that you can have realizations about the spiritual world. They're right in front of us. We need a guru to actually point that out because we're disconnected. But, they say, as above, so below. The reason, just everything, even below, when we understand it rightly, we'll have some realization of the spiritual world and spiritual reality. Like Prabhupada says, if you understand yourself deeply enough, you'll understand Krishna. The drop of water, if you examine the drop of water, you understand the whole ocean, because it's made of the same thing. It's just a greater degree. So we search our own hearts, know ourselves, and we'll start to understand the nature of Krishna also. Because he has these things that we have within us, but in a pure, completely pure and infinite way. But still, we get some little insight, and that's why we can relate. We can find examples with how we are with people, and then hear something about Krishna. There it is. There it is. So this is the fruit that the Bhagavatam is giving. The Vedas are called Kalpataru. They're the tree, the wish-giving tree, desire-fulfilling tree. All the Vedas. And sometimes when Prabhupada says Veda, he means it in a very broad way. He says the Bible is Veda. He says Quran is Veda. All of these things are Veda. It's knowledge, complete knowledge of everything. So it's like a desire-fulfilling tree. If you follow this part of the Veda, say the Karma Kanda section, then the fruit, what's the fruit? You go to the heavens. That the heavens is not the spiritual world. It's a place of just greater enjoyment. There are devotees of God there, but they still have some attachments to position sometimes. Like the demigods, they're devoted. They know God exists. They're devoted to God. They're doing service, but they're attached to position, power maybe. And therefore there's a place for that for them. So you do these acts in the Vedas and you get that fruit. If you look at the Upanishads, and if you study them very deeply under a guru, and what's the fruit of the Upanishads? It's the Brahman realization, that the all-pervading energy one has, or mukti, you could say liberation. So now there's also Puranas. There's 18 Puranas, and 6 take one from the mode of ignorance to the mode of passion. 6 take one from the mode of passion to the mode of goodness, and 6 take one from the mode of goodness to transcendence. So there are 6 Puranas, and it's said that, Jiva Goswami says that the mode of goodness Puranas, Sattvika Puranas, give one love of God. So by these Puranas, you attain love of God. But Bhagavatam, it's just love for Vishnu. Or maybe, just the idea of God is more general. It's like the controller, the supreme being. But what makes Bhagavatam unique, it's not just love of God in general. It's this love of Vrindavan Krishna that we were talking about. This is the fruit of the Bhagavatam. And he says that, so the wish-fulfilling tree has many, many fruits that you can go after. But the highest fruit on the top of the tree, he says, is this very special fruit. And it's the sweetest fruit of all. It has no skin. It has no pit. It has I guess he compares it to like a mango. It has no strands. It's almost like liquid, but somehow it's like contained. It's just this sweet juice fruit. It's at the very tip of the tree. And interestingly, also because it's at the very top, it's the most inaccessible. You have to climb so high. It's hard to get. It's very hard to get. The other fruits at the bottom, you can maybe just grab them. But he says this fruit is very difficult to get. But we see how to get it in this purport. That how does that fruit come down to us? Actually, you can't climb to get it. You can't just decide to climb that tree and reach for the top, and there you are just enjoying that fruit at the top. Because why can't we climb to get it? Because it's something about our nature. Our nature. Krishna is Purusha. He's the supreme controller, supreme being. And we are of a different nature where we actually have to receive rather than go and do it. I'm going to go and do it. I'm going to go get it. I'm going to go get that fruit and just enjoy. No, that doesn't work. Actually, the spiritual life, it's really the art of receiving, how to receive in the right way. And then it comes. And so it's being described here. There's the parampara, which means one after the other, which is a perfect fit for this because he says the fruit is passed down from one person to the other. So there's somebody up on that tree, maybe Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma is at the top of that tree. He's right next to Krishna, and he's got the fruit. And he's passing it down to Narada Muni. And they have to be very careful because it's very delicate, sweet fruit. And then Narada Muni's passing it down, you know. And then, you know, from one to the other, parampara, it goes down. And then Srila Prabhupada has passed it down to all of us. Somehow he's come. It's the sweetest, most wonderful gift in all of creation. And we didn't even know to really look for it. But fortunately, a person is looking for us to give it. Just imagine how merciful. We don't even know what we want. We don't even know what we're doing. We're just wandering, just living life and, you know, lost. And then we have these spiritual masters. The guru is actually looking for people who are lost and saying, hey, take this fruit that I have. It's so sweet. It's so wonderful. Maybe you can't appreciate it right away. If you have any appreciation, that's a great sign. That means you have faith. Faith means that you just start to like things about Krishna consciousness. You just start to appreciate it. You just start to have some appreciation, even for this topic, just the Bhagavatam. Some appreciation is developing, means faith is awakening and developing more and more. And when that faith fully blossoms, it's called love of God. It is prema, it's Krishna prema, that faith, actually, in the very first sprouting of it. That's in the Bhagavad Gita purport, where Prabhupada says, when the faith in the beginning fully awakens, it is called love of God. So very interesting to think about that. That little faith that we have, that little drop of just faith, that is your love of God trying to come out, trying to manifest. It has to be, it's like a seed, right? It's like a seed, and it has to be watered. What's the watering? The Chaitanya Charitamrita says that, I forget the verse, but that the watering process is hearing and chanting. Specifically says kirtan jale. The water is the kirtan that nourishes the seed, the bhakti lata bij, the seed of devotion that's in the heart, is watered by hearing and chanting. Actually, if you focus on that analogy Rupa Goswami gives of the seed in the heart, what's the water? You have to build a protective fence. If you go deep into that analogy, you understand the whole process of Krishna consciousness. Watch out for the mad elephant that may come and destroy. Everything is there, you know, an offensive mind, an offensive mentality. The seed, your seed, that soft seed in the heart will get trampled upon. An offensive mentality. And then the fence is like the sadhu sangha that you have to keep in the association. It protects the plant. And then there's the watering. What is the watering? It's hearing and chanting in the association of devotees. So that analogy, go deep into it because everything is there. You understand the whole process. And it's perfect. So this very high fruit, the top of the tree, there's this very special fruit of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And it's passed down through disciplic succession. And we just have to receive it. Sometimes Prabhupada would say that they would ask Prabhupada, why are we so fortunate? Many people get false gurus, right? And this is a little bit here in the purport as well, the professional reciters of the Bhagavatam. Mm-hmm. Some people just have some charisma and they tell good stories. And in India, you'll find that the people who have that kind of nature, and they'll go take classes on the Bhagavatam so that they can become professional reciters of the Bhagavatam. And, you know, the audience is there and everyone's just enjoying and laughing and all the stories. They have all the pastimes. They can recite all the verses, but they're actually doing it for a livelihood. Some donation is given. They start to get invited to different places. So Prabhupada said, if you hear, because a lot of them also have a Mayavad conclusion too, that they'll tell all the pastimes of Krishna, but it's only meant to lead to this kind of letting go of everything and just merging into the Supreme Spirit. So the speaker, the conviction of the speaker is actually shared with the audience. So if someone really holds that's the conclusion of the Bhagavatam, and you hear from such a person, even though it's the Bhagavatam, it still will have a negative effect on you. The example is milk. Milk is good. Milk is nutritious. Milk is great. But if it's touched by the lips of a serpent, and then you drink that milk, you'll be poisoned. So Bhagavatam is like this sweet, fresh milk. But if it touches the lips of a serpent, someone who has the wrong conclusion or the wrong motive, then those who hear are also affected. But if imagine you have the right motive, you are a lover of God, and you're reciting the verses of the Bhagavatam, and you're sharing the stories of the Bhagavatam, if you come in the vicinity of that vibration, then your love of God will also awaken. So, Bhagavatam is not just philosophy as normally understood. There are some ideas and points, and we think, oh, this is philosophy. Yeah, I learned things in school. I studied some philosophers, and I was into all that myself. And so then I approached the Bhagavatam in the same way. Okay, let me try to understand these points. That we have to do that to some degree, but it's better to understand the Bhagavatam as mentioned here. It's a kind of power. It's a power. It's called Chit Shakti, which means knowledge, power. And it's better to think of it that way, because when you hear the stories, realize that you're entering a kind of like a power field. If it's given by the right person and you're there to hear it and your heart is open, you'll be influenced. You can't help it but be influenced if your heart is open. And it's not like an intellectual grasping of it. It's just an open heart, a heart full of faith. And you hear it with that consciousness. We have to grab. I'm not saying don't, try to figure out the points and ideas, but there's a way of hearing where you're hearing with a service attitude and an open heart of faith, and you just let it go in, and it actually is changing you. Just like when a flower bud, if it's simply in the rays of the sun's power, it's an energy, right? The sun rays is like a power. It's an energy. And the sun, the flower just has to be there, and it will grow from the power of those sun rays. So if we're simple like the flower, if we're simple and we have faith and we just hear Bhagavatam from the right source, hear Prabhupada's classes on the Bhagavatam, the sound vibration. It's a vibration, it's an energy. Just be within that energy and you will grow up just like that flower. You'll grow up spiritually. Your soul will awaken. So it says here directly, it says the Bhagavatam, Sangraha ayam vibhutinam. This Bhagavatam, it's the accumulation of all the diverse potencies of the Godhead. It's called a potency. It's called a power. Vibhuti means like a power, an energy. So the Bhagavatam is of a higher nature, of a higher energy than this whole material world. It's of a higher order. So when we achieve a state of receptivity to it, which is another way of saying faith, a state of receptivity, when we achieve that, then we'll be raised by the higher energy of the Bhagavatam. And what is that higher energy of the Bhagavatam? It is that Vrindavan Krishna. That's the fruit of it. So just by being receptive to the heart of the Bhagavatam, it raises us up to the same level of what it's giving, what it is, which is Vrindavan Krishna. And everything works this way. If you just go get a mundane book, if you go to the library and just grab a book, so what is the essence of that book? What was the essence of the author's intention? In one sense, by opening yourself to it, you'll start to associate with it, and you'll find that there's a match with you and the book. You're raised by it, you're connected to it. You're associating with it, and therefore it will give you something. So then imagine what a book like the Bhagavatam, what does the Bhagavatam give? It gives this Vrindavan Krishna. So all of you are going to forget that Krishna's God even one day, maybe, and just love completely, purely, spontaneously from the heart. If you keep reading this and if you keep, sincerely practicing, that's the fruit. That's the fruit with very special fruit, no skin, no pit, no strands. Try to imagine that. You can't imagine it with your mind. Again, the mind can't grasp it, the intellect can't grasp it, but if something excites you about it, and if you feel the beauty of it, like a lot of you are smiling, that means there's some attraction to it and this idea of the sweetness of Krishna, and then we're on our way to Krishna. If we keep moving forward sincerely and seriously. Okay, I think I should stop. So maybe just conclude reading the verse again just to remind us of what was being said here. So Brahma, Lord Brahma is speaking to Narada. And he's also asking him to, expand on this science of God, which is interesting, right? Expand on it. Lord Brahma just heard a few verses from Krishna himself, and that was the Bhagavatam originally. That's coming up later. There's a Chatur Shloki, the 4 essential verses of the Bhagavatam. And now he's, telling Narada, you expand. And of course, Narada encouraged Vyasadeva to expand. And then we have it in this form, so expanding it is also part of the process. And we should have that spirit that wants to give and wants to expand it in a sense, but we have to be qualified to do so. We can't just decide to expand it from my own level of consciousness and then what am I giving, But if you become a disciple of a guru or a true guru, then you start to, and you're prepared in the right way, then you start to have some realization, some understanding, and you can also add to the Bhagavatam in the sense of explaining it maybe perhaps in different words that can help reach others. Same message, but finding ways, creative ways to give it. So this verse one last time and we'll stop. O Narada, the science of God, Srimad Bhagavatam, was spoken to me in summary by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and it was spoken as the accumulation of his diverse potencies. Please expand this science yourself. Hare Krishna. Any thoughts, comments?
Hi, Krishna. Prabhu, thank you for class this morning.
Thank you.
I wanted to share that I really appreciated you saying being open to receive, and that it's not, love is not force. So it's an exchange between two people, and to really receive the love of Godhead is actually being open to receive his love. And so I feel like that's the way I want to preach, is to remind myself that I am not here to force anything. I am here to preach love of Godhead. And I love how that you said in a way that can be received. So it's really just being open and really keeping the connection to God and being true to myself. And hopefully it's attractive to others that want to also have that higher vibration. And I feel like I had that experience coming to the first home program, and therefore, and after that is that I saw only love. I only saw reception. I only saw the willingness of others to meet me where I'm at, and then to continue the path was a personal choice, and one that I freely gave, and in order to receive this nectar. And so I really appreciate your class. Is a nice reminder of how it can be attractive to others that have not experienced the science of Godhead, and to recognize the dormant love of Godhead. And I loved also about the faith, and having just, a taste of it that way until that love is fully awakened. So I really, appreciate all the connections that you had in your class this morning.
Yeah, thank you. You expanded on this simple point that I made in such a nice way. Just like here, it's being asked that Narada Muni expand on the science. So I like how, and this point of receiving, it's really like sometimes we think, okay, I'm going to chant now. I'm going to do this. We can't actually, even we have to bring it when we chant, we have to think I'm actually receiving, not doing something. Even though the mouth has to move and words have to come out, it feels like an activity, right? I'm going to chant. I'm going to chant Krishna's name. But somehow we have to keep it inside of us that even while these words are coming out of my mouth, Krishna has to reveal. Krishna has to do it. I just have to be open and receptive. It's a practice of being receptive to the name. So we can't perform bhakti. We can't do it. I'm going to now do some bhakti. Bhakti is pure devotion, and we're in material consciousness. So what am I going to do? I have to do something. But the idea is that while doing, it's Krishna, please. It's a longing in the heart for Krishna to actually give to give you entrance into bhakti. We have to be allowed into bhakti. Bhakti is eternally going on right now in the spiritual world. All the gopis, it's happening right now, and it's also an energy. It's said to be the vilas. It's like a play that's constantly going on. It's an energy, the vilas of the Svarup Shakti. And it's a little technical. I usually don't get into all these things, but it's a little technical. But it's like a kind of it's a play of one of Krishna's energies that's eternally going on. And when we can't just decide to do that, right? I'm going to now enter into that by washing this pot. You know, it's devotional service, but somehow washing the pot with the mood, with the understanding that there's this energy and it's there and it's going on right now. And Krishna, please, you know, when you're ready, I'm just going to continue serving. And when you're ready, you just let me into it. And I can also be in that play, that play of bhakti. So it's all about being receptive. Even though we have to do things, we should know we can't do anything. Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much for class. I have a comment and a question. I really appreciated what you said, that spiritual life is the art of how to receive. And the question that I'm in at this moment, I'm trying to reconcile that with the kind of Sakatov idea of clear intention, where like nothing gets in the way, of the clear intention of I guess accomplishing a goal or a task or something. And it almost seems like they're at odds, because clear intention means like I'm going for it, like I don't care if there's whatever, the sky's falling or whatever, like, I don't know. I was thinking about the example of the fruit that you were saying at the top of the tree. That analogy was very beautiful. And the idea of like, you can't just like go grab it. Like I can't just take it. I need to receive it. But I need to have clear intention, which means nothing gets in the way of me receiving it at the same time. I guess that's it, right? Nothing gets in the way of me receiving it. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a nice question. It's a good question. And somehow our nature is a kind of this receptive energy, but we also, like there are two words for surrender. At least that, maybe there's more, but there's two that I know of. And one of them is Sharanagati in Sanskrit. And it's a kind of more of this letting go and receiving and taking shelter of the Supreme. It's kind of has this passive mood to it. And then the other word is prapadyante, which is surrender also. And it means to step forward. It means to actually, you surrender by stepping forward, by taking control, by doing something, by becoming active. And so these things seem like, contradictions on our level of consciousness, but somehow that pure state of spiritual consciousness will have an active and a passive aspect to it simultaneously. So you're right. It's not we just totally lie down, and just lay there and just let it happen and let it all happen. And there is a way we have to kind of, like we talk about in Sattva, assertiveness, right? This was a valuable lesson for me, learning about becoming more assertive. And it's, for me, I think the path more leans towards stepping forward, the surrender of prapadyante rather than sharanagati. My nature's already a little bit, let it happen, whatever happens is it's Krishna's will. So I feel like my path is more to balance myself. I have to go more towards doing, but also just keeping it in mind. But what can I do? Ultimately, my hands, my mind, everything is a gift from Krishna. So in that sense, whatever I do also I'm dependent. But doesn't mean I don't now take control and try to get things done and have certain aims and go after them. That's also very important, I think. So, but maybe dear Govinda Prabhu can share more.
Hare Krishna. It's a common saying, work like everything depends on me, and pray like everything depends on Krishna. So much about your class, Ghanshyam Prabhu. It's a very solidified, expanded principles, and I like the way you expanded the yoga athlete analogy And just now, because work like everything depends on me, pray like everything depends on Krishna. So I like how you gave those two definitions of surrender. Sharanagati Prabhajanti kind of enriches my understanding of the interplay of those principles. Okay, in Sappatov, the wording I like to use, at least the wording that I prefer to use, not that I always use, is that, yeah, when the spirit soul, the spiritual being having a human experience is in clear intention, then nothing material can get in the way. Okay, that's more precise. Maybe sometimes I say nothing can get in the way, which can be like, we're like God, we just haven't realized it yet. But that's not what we mean. Nothing material can get in the way. And from that point of view, genuine clear intention, consciousness and the result really only exists on the platform of pure sattva. Because any other mode, and then essentially we're not clear. We're influenced by Rajas and Tamas, and we think we're independent, but we're really on the machine. And so by definition, if I'm influenced by Rajas and Tamas, by definition, my consciousness isn't clear. So okay. And so in that sattvic mode, which is, he said, really, I mean, sometimes in the seminars we won't so directly say it, but really it means the soul turning towards itself in self-awareness, the soul turning towards Krishna in a devotional attitude. Yeah, then nothing material can get in the way, because then the soul, and I love how you said that, the soul in that devotional bhakti attitude is free from the material energy. The soul's no longer bound, the soul's no longer a slave, no longer misidentifying with the dream reality that's all about the modes. And then the soul's free of material. So in that pure sattvic transcendental consciousness, bhakti consciousness, nothing material can get in the way because the soul's no longer influenced. Spiritual stuff could get in the way, meaning like, yeah, I have this clear intention to create this result for Krishna, for Prabhupada, to spread the Sankirtan movement, and it's not going that direction. Super Soul, Krishna, Prabhupada, they might be directly intervening to test me, to help me not be stubborn and to be flexible for a different, even more auspicious direction. Spiritual stuff can get in the way. Nothing material can get in the way because the soul's truly free in that. So, yeah. And again, I appreciate everything about your class. I really like how you gave the, like if I, even if I read all the 700 verses of Bhagavad Gita and all the 18,000 verses of Bhagavatam 10 times, I still wouldn't get to sing Nrsingadev mantras at 5:15 a.m. and Shri Guru Charanam Padma. So I like how you stressed. Prabhupada really thought carefully about the morning program. It's a science. It's a science. One other thing, just following up, somebody shared about, there could be like the narrow conception of Vedas, even a narrow conception of Bhagavatam. There's a question response after one of Prabhupada's lectures, and someone maybe a bit challenging about like someone said, well, what about because someone had the misconception that this is like a sectarian thing or something. So someone somehow mentioned what about Joan of Arc? As she was a saint and she's not in your tradition. And Prabhupada just matter-of-factly said, Joan of Arc, she is Bhagavatam.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
I like what you shared about clear intention, that the real true clear intention is pure spiritual intention.
Yes.
And I never grasped clear intention for the last however many years I've been attached or connected with Sappatova. I just didn't get it, but I one time had this experience where clear intention washed over me. I had that feeling like this is happening. The vision is clear. I am doing it, and then I did it, and it was very successful. And overly successful, and I was like, I have to manage the success.
Yes.
And I was like, yeah, that wasn't me coming up with clear intention. It came to me.
It was
Clear intention
revealed
is-
to you.
Yeah, clear intention to me is given by God, and if you don't have it, it's just not time. That's not the direction to go. You don't have to muster it. Like, I'm just gonna go create clear intention. You can't create it. It just comes. Like, that's sort of my experience. It just washes over you, a vision. So it does have a spiritual source. So I don't know, I feel like it's clicking more. And Ghanshyam Prabhu, thank you so much for your class. It's really like melted my heart. everything you said was like fresh perspective for me. And I appreciate your gentle nature. That also touches me, because your gentle nature. And I'm just so happy to see you. And for those who don't know, we did a advanced seminar together.
Yeah.
And Ghanshyam, you played a part, and melting my heart. As you have an effect of melting my heart for love of God. And I was like, oh, thank you. Thank you so much. And yeah, at the end of the advanced seminar, Mother Molly was telling me about her relationship with God, and I was crying. I don't know why I'm crying. And you were sitting next to me, and I was just like profusely crying. It was so touching, the idea of having God in my life, or that maybe I was like, oh, I don't know why I'm crying so much. And you knew everything that I was going through expertly. And you were saying like, oh, it's, you said, it's hard to surrender to a person. Like, you're contemplating having God in your life, and God's a person, and it's intimate, it's vulnerable, and I was like, I don't know. But you stayed with me, and yeah, that was really what I needed, and I'm so grateful for you. And I'm so happy to be in your class today. So thank you.
Thank you. Such a joy to see. It was such a surprise and a joy to see you when you walked in. I was like, wow, my old friend.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Appreciate your encouragement too.
Yeah, and also I hope you have a platform for giving classes often. I think you have it's a natural ability, and I hope I don't know if you have a platform, but I'd like to see that you have like a platform, a weekly platform. I don't know who invites you, where you go, but please keep giving classes and sharing. Like, you have an effect. So.
By the way, I heard a class. I was amazed when dear Govinda Prabhu sent me a class that you gave. I think it was Bhagavad Gita. And I mean, it's like just knowing you in the course, and then hearing that class. I'm like, wow! Like, it was so insightful and so heartfelt. The class you gave, you spoke about Prabhupada and like appreciating Prabhupada. And I just remember I was like really impacted by that class as well, in terms of just like the transformation. Like you were, like when I met you, it was like you were exploring it and it was difficult, and then you're giving this amazing class on the Bhagavad Gita and glorifying Prabhupada. I'm like, wow, it's so beautiful to see this change. So you as well. I heard one class, so I'm not just saying it, guessing at it, but I heard it was a beautiful class.
Thank you for your class. And I echo very much what Dominique says. I feel like it was really nice how you opened up saying about different religions. It's kind of lost the science. And it's so nice because knowing you study all these religions. I mean, you're constantly reading some text from another tradition, finding those connections, and you're deeply nourished by it. And just very open. And truly universal. It's really beautiful, and I feel like it's always very nice because I have that tendency myself. I like to get nourished from the Catholic tradition and from Islam and like that. I always connect with you about that. And I also appreciate how you're saying that in the scriptures, also like what Dear Govinda was also saying, that there isn't the exact, like, here's what to do now. At this time, do this much, and that's the acharyas. That's what the teachers are there. They see the time, place, and circumstance, and those will shift with what we need.
Mhm.
And I think I just I'm appreciating that,
Mhm.
and kind of I feel like you're always just emphasizing to me that you're always just so patient and kind, and just knowing that if I'm ever struggling, you're just like it's a spiral upward, you know. You're always just saying you'll come back, and you just keep going up, and always just believing the best of me, and you believe the best of other people too. So I'm just I'm grateful and appreciating your studious mood, and it shows so nicely when you give class. Like you just know what you're talking about. And you just have an understanding. So thank you. And and I feel like there were other things I wanted to say, but I feel like that's the main gist of it. It's just an appreciation for your character and also how you share it, and that point about religion, and I think and also the intimacy of God, because maybe sometimes I'm not so much in that Vrindavan Krishna mood, you know, and sometimes I want to connect with God on a very powerful level. Like I just want to, oh my God, you're so powerful, and I just want to be in awe, and I just feel like I got to connect to that awe. And actually, Srila Prabhupada did say that we should dress the deities in the mood of Vaikuntha. I think, no, sorry, not Vaikuntha. Like the mood of Lakshmi Narayan, I guess, yeah. Lakshmi Narayan. Aishwarya, sorry, Aishwarya. We should dress them in the mood of Aishwarya. It's like, and I was confronted by that when I was doing Seva in the Pujari room. It's like, but they're Vrindavan Krishna. Like, why can't we just dress them in simple clothes and a bamboo flute? And over time, having the realization that we need that Aishwarya, we need that kind of that mood, that God is so powerful. He's so opulent and beautiful that it inspires that surrender. And that's what that feeling of, wow, you're so beautiful, I want to surrender to you.
Yeah.
That's one of the effects even of beauty, is that I want to surrender to you. I want to surrender to this person. So I feel like sometimes Prabhupada knew that also. He's always directing us to Vrindavan Krishna, always. And he's also very aware that he needs to meet us where we're at.
Yeah.
And that we need to also feel that sense of awe and reverence. And that's an entrance to being able to build up a sense of respect. Because there's no way I think that you can get to the most intimate of someone if you're disrespectful. Like everybody is aware that everybody in Vrindavan, it's basically all the Dwarka and the Mathura, there's a sense of respect because like, oh, this is God. And then in Vrindavan, it's so integral that they are respecting God, but it's like almost like hidden in a sense. But it like if he was to reveal his most intimate self and then someone was disrespectful to him, it would just be so painful. So it's almost like we need to cultivate respect as such a foundation. Just be respectful. And if I can just respect God and just see he's so opulent and powerful, okay, I respect that. And then I can become more intimate. And that goes with any relationship, right? If I can just be respectful with the people who I'm most intimate, if I can be always respectful to you, my husband, or with my children, always be respectful, then actually the most intimate relationship fully can come out. So I'm just seeing that, and that sometimes in other traditions, Krishna is so kind, he comes for all kinds of people with where they're at and with their levels of respect and intimacy. He doesn't force anybody to connect with Vrindavan Krishna. And so he's like, okay, you need some awe and reverence, you know, just connect with God, Allah, the great one, and connect with the teacher of Jesus Christ. So I feel like in that way, Krishna is really so merciful. He reaches everyone with where they're at.
Thank you. Thank you for your kindness and your encouragement for me. And also, I feel like the more you were talking, the more all these like precious realizations were coming out. So much. Yeah, the religions, you know, God is manifested in this world, and so many ways, and they're giving different approaches, you know, and they're giving, because God is, he's infinite, and he has intimate aspects to his personhood as well. And so according to this time, this place, here's a path, here's a whole world, that if you enter into this world, to the world of Christianity, the world of Islam, you know, the world of Judaism, it's like, it's a whole world in and of itself. It has its own process and teachers and things, but you're gradually, the idea, you're just gradually coming closer and closer to the Supreme Person, and their methods may differ and all these things, but it's still God just manifesting himself in a different way at a different time. And this Krishna consciousness, Vaishnavism, it's such that fruit is so fascinating and interesting and beautiful, you know, it's a very special thing. It's this Vrindavan Krishna. And like you said, it's so high, it's actually so high. So we just kind of like cherish it in our hearts, you know. At least that's my mood. I don't get too into it. My book is Bhagavad Gita, you know, that's my favorite book. I just keep returning to, and I get all into it, but I don't read so much pastimes, although Prabhupada would recommend it, that we hear also, but it's kind of like this cherished goal from a distance. I'm just like, wow, so beautiful. But it's, but really we have so much to do in just, you know, hearing in the process and becoming committed and respectful, like you were saying, towards God, just respect, you know, starting there. And so it's all there in so many ways. And yeah, it is inspiring sometimes to see, like you'll find hints of this, like God the Beloved, you'll find hints in different traditions, but it's fully developed in Krishna consciousness, and it's fully revealed in all the aspects. Rupa Goswami talks about, you know, all the different emotions between the devotees. It's incredible. It's like the whole science of love, intimate love, comes from a religious book, you know, like it's not a, and you get little hints, you know, here and there in different traditions, but they don't develop it. Their focus is more the reverence, the all, God the Father. You think about the father takes care of the kids, right? And I was hearing a class by Prabhupada once, and he was saying something like this, paraphrasing, but the Christians, this is also good, you know, that father is loving, father, and you ask things of your father. But in Krishna, we become the father of Krishna. We become the father and he becomes the son, which means that we have to do things for him. We have to take care of him. He's asking things of us. It reverses. It just shows how high and intimate it is. It just, God totally reverses, and you become superior in a certain way in terms of taking care of Krishna, like Mother Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj. So it's very sweet. Like I said, just to appreciate this, it's something in us. It's very attractive, and it's not intellectual. It's just the heart being attracted to the intimacy of a relationship with God.
This is like the thing that clicked the most for me about Krishna consciousness is devotional service. It's like, you were saying in the class about when you study your own self enough that you can come to know about God. And before Krishna consciousness, I was very much into studying myself. I was into personal growth and going very, very deep and studying human nature. And what I completely know 100% before Krishna consciousness is that the nature of the human, or really I was describing the soul, but I wasn't thinking of the soul during most of that intense personal growth time in my life. But I know that the soul is loving and wants to serve, and it has all these beautiful qualities. That is the nature of every single human. And they come into, you know, so I didn't have a full complete picture, but I completely know the nature of the soul, you know. And when I heard when it clicked, I don't know exactly the day or what, whether I was reading or in a class, or when something clicked, like that, the whole purpose of the soul and the bliss of the soul is devotional service to the absolute truth. At the time, I needed to say the absolute truth, because I completely, and I remember at age 19, I was like, I'm committed to the truth, whatever it is. I don't care. It could be Krishna, you know, whatever. Like, I like, you know, I want the truth, you know. And so anyway, this is what, like, this is some of my initial realizations that completely like captured me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that we, and it makes sense also, and from a different angle, that those are my personal realizations leading to like, yes, devotional service to God it must be the most meaningful way to live. You know, it just, you know, this logic there, but also, I don't know what I was gonna say, I'm feeling shy, but, I don't know, I feel like I'm losing it, but anyway, I'm losing it.
Well, I appreciated that point of like going so deep into yourself, and then you find that there is this desire for like love and for loving service. That's like the deepest part of who we are, right?
I got it, yeah. So, we're supplied everything by God. Like, we don't really get to like create ourselves, or all we get to do is discover ourselves, and then honor what we find or not. You know, we can resist it or whatever, but you know, we're not God. Like, you know, if you take a moment and realize that I didn't create myself, I didn't create anything in creation. I'm not God. I'm only being given this gift. Not that everyone feels like this is a gift. Some people feel like maybe like life is a curse, you know. But if as one cultivates love and service, whether in Krishna consciousness or not, there's gratitude, and it's just so natural to give back to someone who's been giving everything to you, like just on a logical level. Like, how could I sit and just keep being given gift after gift after gift after gift and not want to return my energy back to the source of everything I'm being given? You know, it's just like, just logically, like the soul, it's just so natural to serve.
Yeah.
And to return. So anyway.
Yeah.
I love Krishna consciousness in that way. I'm like, it's just, you know, and it is universal, non-sectarian, just to give back to, it's just to love and serve God with devotion. What could be a better conclusion?
That's the whole picture of the absolute truth. It's just a giving and receiving. Like, that's all that life is meant for. That's what's happening in the spiritual world. That's what's happening even in the material world. These gifts, Krishna, like, you know, with freedom, we can kind of turn away, but then Krishna creates another world, a material world, which is also the only purpose is to bring us back to Krishna. So it's also another like gift where you go through experiences and you're meant to search your heart and you're meant to suffer a little bit and realize, why do I suffer? What's the solution? And so it's like the whole reality, the ultimate picture is just a giving and receiving of love. And so like, it's the deepest part of us. It's what creation is all about. And when you go back to the spiritual world, it's just direct with Krishna, with totally pure, you know? So it's like, that's it. That's all there is, giving and receiving. That's the idea of the two, and like Radha Krishna. That's like the personification of that principle of just like a constant giving and receiving. And the one, it's like a competition, you know, then the giver wants to be the receiver and the receiver wants to be the giver, and it's just all beautiful.
I've noticed that in devotional settings sometimes, like, let me serve you, let me serve you.
Yeah.
I really don't want to receive.
Yeah. That's why Krishna wants to take away his position of power, because he feels like, you know, he'll get it as, because he's God, he's being served. He doesn't like that. He's like, no, you know, I want to also take that away, and I want to be the servant, and I want to be below you, and then from there I can serve you. I want some of that pleasure, you know, of giving and not just receiving. And so he also, you know, is.
Also, he must feel that I want to receive not because I'm God, but I want somebody to love me for who I am.
Yeah. Right. It's true. That's the deepest, that's the deepest truth of Krishna consciousness right there.
So Sankirtan movement, Lord Chaitanya's appearance, 3 confidential reasons. It's all about that.
Yep. Thank you for tolerating all this time and tolerating all this.
This is definitely what time is for.
True. Well, thank you so much for the opportunity. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Prabhupada ki jai, Vaishnava ki jai.
Basically,
Yeah.
Wednesday for breakfast, we are